Tricia. I am the 8th generation on both sides of my family to do this. I come from a long line of gypsies from Europe. My great-great-grandma was a seer for a lot of the politicians in Europe, Middle East. They used to come to her. She had, as far as I know, 7 kids in 7 different countries, and 5 of them took up the same mantle. My father's done it on my mom's side, palm reading, so I learned a lot from my maternal grandma, and got to do a little bit of card reading. And to me, this was normal. Anybody that I couldn't speak to it, I just saw a little bit weird or abnormal, even though they saw me as weird and abnormal too, so.
Yeah, every child at 7 thinks they can see, spirits walking around and people talking to you and things like that, right? So my name is Patty, and I'm the other half of the Side Chicks. And I also come from a very intuitive line. We also died as children. I died when I was 7 from a smallpox vaccine, and she had died falling off a wall. And we both came back very different, very different. So one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about today is the Matrix, because how many people here think they live in a Matrix? So it feels like a Matrix to you. Yeah, and it's more and more and more crazy as it goes. Part of this, has everybody seen the Matrix movie? Okay, so it makes a lot of sense. And then has everybody seen the last one? No, the last one is awesome. We've seen it like 12 times, so you need to see it. It's definitely a positive move in the right direction as far as where we're going. Because if you watch a lot of movies, what happens is they kind of mimic what we've been going through. A lot of predictive programming, a lot of things showing us, where we've been, where we are, and hopefully not going necessarily. Because some of the movies out there are a little scary right now. But like for example, some of the movies that we have on there, I think it's the next slide, a lot of them tend to try to predict the future, and they talk about simulation. Simulation is really big in the movies. Like Dark City, Avatar, Transcendence, Jumanji.
They make you go,
Yes, Terminator.
Yeah.
Did everybody know, does everybody remember the company in Terminator? It's Skynet. Does that sound familiar?
yes. And they actually
have a company named Skynet now.
Yeah,
It's pretty creepy.
I've heard of it.
Yes. In Dark City, she's a big fan of Dark City. Tell them a little bit about.
Well, it came before The Matrix. Interestingly enough, I did a little bit of research. I fell in love with that movie. That movie talks about the reset. These alien, highly ancient, sophisticated beings. That very powerful psychic. They were able, very powerful telekinetic. They could do the alien thing where they hypnotize you and you don't remember anything, false time, missing time. So they would reset the same people. They took a group of people, reset the day exactly at 12:01 a.m. and they would put them in different roles. So it touched a lot into my beliefs in reincarnation. You come in choosing what role you're going to take, the parents you're going to have. You're going to have an alcoholic father. You pre-select everything. That's the thinking. In that movie, if you're able to find it, you're going to enjoy it. Very dark. The Matrix actually followed up, used the same sets and all that. So there was Matrix. The first one is very almost black and white, very monotonous, very cold. And then,
It's going on its own. It has a life of its own. It's that AI.
So, the Dark City, and then for those of us that have seen Avatar, I imagine a lot of people have seen Avatar. That's a very beautiful movie, and it speaks to all our higher frequencies, that we're able to work and function in a very high level, high frequency. It's all about the faster the molecule, the more you can transform. Very transitional.
The second part of Avatar is coming out in December.
Yes.
Yes.
The trailer just came out.
Another thing about Avatar, it speaks to, like, we're not really here, but our consciousness are our avatars, which we are technically right now. We are the avatars. So they both said, and the great thing is that we're able to project here and bring our consciousness here, and work out all these things and raise everybody's consciousness through the ascendance. The ascension is very much tied to all these movies also, if you read between the lines. And the more you learn, the more like, oh, you know, and that's what happens with a lot of these movies. Everybody familiar with the ascension?
Yeah, and speaking of ascension, the next movie that we picked is Transcendence with Johnny Depp, where he gets shot with that radioactive bullet, and his consciousness gets transferred into this huge server that created all this high technology. He was a scientist, very advanced for his thinking, and he created the city for his grieving wife. He created a replica copy of himself. He created the technology to create the clone technology, which that if you're not too scared of looking a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole, yeah. Transcendence is a great reference movie going into that too. Yes.
Would Richard Gere and the Moth Prophecies be?
That's another, yeah,
Yes,
I'm actually a cryptozoologist,
There's a
so
lot of them out there.
Mothman Prophecies, that's a great one with Richard Gere. Yeah, a lot of it was based off of the actual events that happened in West Virginia. It was very terrifying. They still have sightings there. The Mothman has appeared all throughout history. The Aztecs have a written record of it. The Mayans have a written record of it. They're they're like Bigfoot. They go through portals.
Right.
These are just entities that transition in different parts of the world.
And if you want the history of the world, go out and watch some movies.
Yes.
Because it'll tell you all the way from the beginning, because just everything you've ever met or ever learned in school, it's all lies. It's all lies.
Yeah, now speaking of transitioning and Avatar, you have all the Jumanji movies. The one
Everybody
with
feel like
Robin-
they're in a game.
Yes.
You gotta jump to the level, because it's like, okay, you gotta pick up this crystal, this crystal, this crystal on this level, or this lesson, or this lesson. And then bing, 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 you get to jump up in frequency and move on to that next level. And all of a sudden you get like gifts.
Yeah, the recent Jumanji movies actually goes into how to not die, how to take advantage of the gifts that you have. They presented it in a very childlike, if you've seen the new ones with The Rock, the ones that just came out, it goes into, you know, the strengths and stuff. So that's a fun movie.
And that could also tie into different lives. You go through a life and you're going through and all of a sudden you make a mistake or something, you die. Okay, so then you come back in the next life, you got a few more tools to work with. You still have some memories, sometimes you'll bring in gifts from the other side, and then maybe you get to start on the second level, and then go from there.
And last but not least, my favorite that I grew up watching, all the Terminator films, because I love all of them. But it's an education in itself. And they talk a lot about changing the timelines, because there's theories on what, if you change the future, you'll change the right now. The Avengers, the Endgame, the last Avengers movie, which was divided into 2 parts, they talk a little bit about that theory. It's all about quantum physics. You can change your future self by changing the present of who you are.
Perfect example is Back to the Future. And ever seen Back to the Future? You watch that series, by the end he goes back, he makes a different choice, because it's all about choices.
Yes.
But eventually you're going to figure out the choice is really an illusion, because you already know the answer.
And
It's
that's
a matter of choosing. Do we go with
and
this,
trusting your higher self
or
also.
do we try something different? Does anybody have any favorite simulation movie that we haven't mentioned? Any movies that show the truth? Okay, so we're going to keep going. Yep.
What'd you say, Richard Gere, what was the name of that?
The Moth Prophecies.
The Mothman Prophecies.
Mothman.
Mothman, oh, Mothman.
M-O-F or?
Yeah, very good movie.
TH like the bugs, Mothman.
Mothman Prophecies.
Okay, so this is the next slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a matter of choice. We're going to show you a little clip from The Matrix. So we're going to be pulling out little favorite things, because these are things that really trigger people to think, and it plants seeds, and it makes you look at what's going on right now and things that you're doing, things that, you know, how we're ascending and how it relates to it. Basically the choice, this is your last chance. You have some?
Even now, in this very room, you can see a
here to change your mind on anything, we're here to plant seeds, but that is a very telling line of what's going on in the world today. Basically, we are in a sort of prison, whether we've made it ourselves, and we're in our own little stuck prison by choices we've made, or also worldwide, it's also through choices that we have made as civilizations. And if you think about it, back in, like say, back in the medieval days, okay, you had your kings, your queens, your serfs, and your slaves, and that. And if you think about it, have we really gotten that much further? Because we still have the people that, that run the countries, run the world. We're still basically serfs and slaves. And that's what we're trying to raise our frequency up and go through the ascension so we can move into the golden age. And did you know that, oh, that's part of the next one. I have ADD, I will admit to it, I squirrel off. So I'm gonna try to stick to the thing. This is where Morpheus discusses the Matrix.
Matrix is a system now. That system is our enemy. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. Are you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was forgetting. Who's it? This isn't the Matrix. No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them. What are they? Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one. We are survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them. Someone. I won't lie to you here. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed. Why? I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be. What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets? No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to. We got trouble.
So basically everyone in here, you're all searching. You're all looking for something more. You're all Neo. And you have the ability to affect every single person you come up to. The other thing is when they talk about being unplugged, that's also taking the red pill versus the blue pill. Are you awake? Do you want to be awake? Or do you want to be just status quo, stay in the matrix, be happy, and, you know, how many people want that red pill? Anybody out here? Raise your hand.
And the other thing too is, you know, everything in this particular trilogy, the first three is all about noticing the signs. When the camera would focus in on Morpheus talking to Neo in the sunglasses, you saw a black background with the agent holding the gun and Neo. Now when the camera turns back to Neo, you see everything as the world. So it's all about when you're ready and you feel ready and you get pulled by the energy, you start noticing a lot of things. And my experience, it still freaks me out because I'm still discovering or rediscovering that same thing too, and her too. So it's, the higher the frequency, the more a new world opens up as well.
And have you ever noticed that this is where we are right now? There's a lot of separation with people, whether it be race, politics, medical, thoughts on what's going on. And this is where we are, and this is where we make the choice. Do we believe this? Do we believe this? It's very convoluted. It's so confusing sometimes. That's where you have to pull in the ascension and your own abilities to whether you can trust or not. Everybody has that trust issue. Should I believe that? Not to mention a lot of people, they're even, being divided. The world is literally being divided in half. And, you could have a friend or a neighbor, someone who you've been friends with all your life, and all of a sudden you have this one little disagreement, and it's like, oh my gosh. Have you ever seen the Body Snatchers? Where they point at you and go, ah! Like that?
So this scene here,
We've had that happen to us
So this
because
scene
of
is-
things we believe.
it's very symbolic, where he wakes up out of the pod. Now, in a sense, we all go through that where we breathe for the first time and it hurts because everything we grew up to believe is no longer real, it's no longer true.
And you find out it's all lies,
Yeah.
and you're like,
And then
oh
you
my
look-
God, all my
And
life.
then you look around and see people that are asleep, commonly referred to as sheep, and you don't know how to help them because you can't reach out to them. That's how it feels in the beginning.
So in the movie, you gotta wonder, is that what they talk about with the awakening? Is this our awakening, and this is what's waking us up, or is it just metaphorical? When we choose to wake up, we see things totally different. Things that were in the past we see over again, whether it be movies, whether it be people, and you're like, oh my God, it's different. The other thing, the deeper you go, the more you realize that things may not be the same. And the biggest thing we can tell you right now is question everything and everybody and research. Don't just Google, research. Find different things, listen to people. We are very powerful spiritual beings, and when we want to manifest, we just think about it, picture it on our minds, and actually see us doing it. And the more you raise your frequency and try to manifest, the more things come faster to you. If you notice, a lot of you, what happens is you'll be thinking, oh wow, I wish I had a better parking spot. Whoop, there it is.
And this is a very safe space. I just want to throw it out there. So if anybody feels comfortable enough to share one of those moments or instances, please feel good.
Red lights.
Yeah.
Red lights. When I'm in a car with someone who is like, oh, I hate red lights, they get every single red light. And I keep telling them,
Yeah.
stop fighting it.
Yeah.
Stop locking yourself up. Just let it flow.
Yeah.
Because they say, well, why do you get all the green lights? Because the red lights don't bother me.
Yeah.
I focus on the green light, I don't focus on the red.
Right. What you think about, you bring about.
That's right. Yeah.
What you focus on, whether good or bad, that's what you're going to bring back
That's
to you.
my gauge to know where I'm at, and
Yeah.
that moment's very
Yeah.
key. If I start to get a lot of red lights, I know I have to shift.
And usually if you wake up in a bad mood or something happens and you trip and you fall or something bad happens, you forgot something when you're going to work, you're going to perpetuate that until you stop that
Yes.
thinking. And things are going to get worse and worse and worse, and then you're going to come home and say, oh my gosh, it's the worst day ever. It's because that's all you were focusing on, was the worst day ever. But it goes exactly the opposite way too. When you think about things that are loving and positive, even if it's not the perfect day, it's all about perception. Because you can think, okay, well, I got held up, I forgot something, I had to go back home and then go back out. Well, maybe if you'd have managed to get out and went without it that first time, maybe you were going to be in a car accident. Just trying to tell me something? There is no spoon!
I did that.
This
I did.
This is one of my most favorite scenes of the movie. From the mouth of babes.
Mm-hmm.
Do not try and bend the spoon. realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon?
Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends. It is only a...
Oh, no.
He's trying to fast forward.
So basically, kids are great for this because they don't have all those, people saying, oh, you can't do that, or you can't do that, or, the TV's telling you, school's telling you, and they're bringing up all those walls and everything. They don't know any better. You have kids, grandchildren, kids, let them play. Don't say you can't do that. Give it to them. I bet they probably could. A lot of them that are coming in right now are star seeds and indigo children and all these different, names they want to give them.
And their response, either they're, wherever they're from, my second favorite response from them is, where do you know they're from? I don't know.
Oh yeah, kids will tell you who they were in the
Yeah.
past.
They'll tell you if you
Past
ask them.
lives. Grandpa is up in the corner talking to them.
Or I was grandpa. My name is Steve, because I read countless amount of articles, and it's amazing. It's a real life case of a kid in India that was born with a scar, I think over the left eyebrow. And he's been talking about, he used to live in another house with a family, had a wife, had a daughter, but he owned a store and he was shot. He was killed. And the parents actually went with their child and discovered that he lived that life. They have a very strong basis of reincarnation in the Hindu and the pre-Hindu. A lot of customs that we all share. We're, as she jokingly puts it, we're recovering Catholics, so we've been taught catechism.
Yeah, and then
Actually, I asked who in here is a recovering Catholic?
like if anybody was there last night, what he said, and it's very true. We get out of that, and we go through 10 other religions, and then we realize, okay, who are we?
So basically we're just here to open up your mind, do it in a fun way, do it a little levity, because everything's so ugly and serious out there as it is. So we just want to present a few other tidbits.
Yeah, we can get you to the door, but you have to walk through it. Same thing, they have all sorts of adages. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. A lot of the same stuff. Does anybody have any incidents that they want to share or any questions yet? No question is weird. We're all about weird.
We love weird. So.
Okay, we'll keep going. Oh, and by the way, everything you learned in school is a lie once you start researching.
So here's a few things that between me and her, it's a collective. There wasn't enough time to put all the rest of them, but we definitely lost World War II.
And we've done decades of research on this.
Yes.
Because, like I said, we died, we came back, and this was our job to learn these things and to enlighten people. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, like it says in 1945, we signed a UN treaty or United Nations treaty, and we give them the Manhattan Island, 50 miles of the Mexican border, Alaska and Hawaii. They own the rights to the internet, which that can be easily proven by a fee, which is spelled under ICANN, ICANN in the phone bill.
And Washington, D.C. is not part of the
who's
United
they?
States, it's its own country. Well,
They own the.
okay, so it could be what a lot of people call them the cabal, the elitists. There's, all sorts of different names for them. As far as we're concerned, they're all Satanists, or most of them. So that's another
If
show.
you look up where they all meet, including politicians, the 5 powerful families, it's called the Bilderberger, right? And then you have the Rothschilds, which control the money. They're the ones who set up the central banks. I didn't have enough room to put on here, but the Federal Reserve is its own entity. It is not governmental.
And the Titanic, it didn't sink on its own by hitting an iceberg. It was sunk because there was 3 people on the ship that didn't want central banks in, which is now, technically the central banks in the bar are basically running the world.
Yeah, so basically the third bullet point is that the police are actually not under U.S., it's under the United Nations in alliance and treaty with England. They are constables pretty much. Sheriffs are U.S., they're under the United States, and they did have the sheriff was deemed more powerful than the governor. So if they wanna take back their land, they have every right to do so. Government cannot confiscate the arms from the sheriffs.
Yeah, and the other thing about, I know there's a lot of controversy about gun control going on, and a lot of, very unfortunate things where people are getting shot, people are getting killed. But the thing about taking guns away from people is you're taking guns away from the law-abiding citizens, and once you do that, the only ones that have guns is the government and the ones that don't care that it's against the law, because they're gonna get them one way or another. So then you're unarmed.
Not just that, I'm sorry to interject.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
But, guns don't do the killing.
People kill people.
And then if you're gonna follow that logic, you gotta take away all the knives, all the cars.
That's right.
All the moving.
Razor blades.
Yeah, and every single country that they have taken guns away, there's been mass genocide.
Yeah.
So, it's something to research, something to look into, and I'm going on, never mind.
They's telling you, circle back.
Go back. Okay, the moon is actually a ship. Does everybody believe in extraterrestrials? Okay, so there was actually a war between the extraterrestrials, and the moon was actually one of the ships that one of the factions of the Anunnaki, which are the reptilians, used. And again, we weren't born exactly the way we think we were, but that's again another one.
That's another.
But the moon is actually a metal ship. That's why there was not too long ago that they heard this ringing in the sky. That was actually the moon ringing.
And they have you can actually find video footage of a crater, of a meteor that hit the moon, and they caught the echoes, the vibrations off of the moon, so it is very hollow.
But when there was a war with Mars and the reptilian race, they were fighting, and they were shooting each other, and they were using weapons they shouldn't have, and they ended up blowing up a planet, which caused the Van Allen belt.
And which
They
stripped
exploded
Mars.
the planet in pieces. And then there was a reptilian race that ended up getting stranded here. They live on the ground. And
It stripped Mars of its top layer. It was believed at one point Mars was a previous incarnation of Earth, a previous version of Earth. Because you can tell they found frozen rivers in it too.
Yeah.
but there are still bases in Mars, inside of Mars, both German and other races.
Yes. Any questions on this? Anybody want to add any information?
I have a question, so I'm trying to, so the Bilderberg and that whole thing, and then we go back to the original, I'm trying to understand the original suppression of how the reptilians got control and where we are now.
Well, that's actually a
That-
whole thing by itself, but basically there was two factions of Anunnaki, and one was reptilian race, and one was also, a couple other different extraterrestrial races. And at that time, they were experimenting on lots of beings and making lots of beings. We are actually an experiment. We were all genetically manufactured.
Yeah, if you want to take it further towards more, the mainstream thought is that the church at one point was the most all-powerful, like Oz pretty much. It said and people did. So going back into the research I've done over the last almost 30 years, is that during the time when Cain left with his sister, they populated what's known now as Canaan, that was settled, which is now Palestine. Not many people know that. But in that time, a lot of the demons were the low-level Anunnaki. There was a good faction, which is very small compared to the bad faction, that would ask for the sacrifice of the firstborn, because it is believed that the firstborn carries the primary DNA of the father, which going back to Adam. Oh, there's a lot behind that too.
Yeah, there's tons
But
and tons. If anybody wants more information on that kind of stuff, we didn't bring our cards. So bad.
Our cards are on our table.
Our cards are on our table. Come visit us and we'll give you a card. Give us a holler and we will give you more information than you ever thought you ever wanted.
So here, Patty actually picked this out. It's all about NASA being a farce.
NASA's a
New
fraud.
York-based rocket company Elon Musk, SpaceX, launched a 5,700-pound supply-loaded spacecraft, including a group of genetically engineered powerful mice, to the International Space Station on Thursday. The SpaceX Dragon capsule was put in orbit on top of a Falcon 9 rocket at the Kennedy Space Center, Florida, around 12:30 p.m. Thursday. It is scheduled to connect with the space station on Sunday. The mission was scheduled to take off on Wednesday, but high winds in the upper atmosphere caused a one-day delay. The mice at the nonprofit Jackson Laboratory in Maine have genes engineered to increase muscle growth. They will help
Lots of
scientists
mice.
understand how
Lots
to
of
limit
mice.
muscle and bone loss in humans while they are in space
Lots
and will
of human
extend the long history of
experimentation,
road
too.
research
Yeah.
aboard the ISS. So far so good. Genetically modified mice. But would they be super rats to be off the
That's
rocket?
a mouse
See
right
that
there.
mouse?
Does the
walking.
live launch video show what appears to be a mouse circling quietly at the foot
And
of the
we've
rocket?
seen lots and lots of videos on this kind of stuff. Also, if you think about it logically, okay, has anybody ever been over to NASA to see the little space shuttle? Okay, well, you saw how big it was, right? How did they get that moon rover in there? Plus all the people?
And then the
It's this bigger than the thing.
Yeah, and Neil Armstrong, he stepped on the moon. We all saw the clippings that they keep on recycling, but we actually saw his boots. They don't have the same
Yeah,
ingrained
they don't
tread.
match what the print was on the moon.
It's just food for thought.
Yeah.
You know, everybody
Do
here
it
is
again,
open.
do your own research, you know.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Why was that mouse able to stay on there and didn't float away?
Exactly, because it was all done
It's
in
CGI.
it's all CGI, and also a lot of it is done in studios, movie studios. And
Oh, I
also
see.
there's a desert
Yeah.
in, was it South Dakota?
Utah.
Where's it? Utah.
I've been through it.
Okay,
I was
and
just gonna
it looks
mention that.
exactly like some of the things. Now, all of a sudden, they lost all the film, they've lost all the records,
They lost all the technology.
they lost all the technology, so you can't look up that it's
Yeah.
a joke.
And if
but-
you actually look up the Houston Space Center where they're actually talking to the astronauts, there's a part down, because they always focus at the screen, there's a part down there where you see a green screen, flat wall, green screen, and they have the guy on harnesses. There's a few videos that have
Oh, yeah.
come out where they
Yeah.
show him on harnesses.
They were using, holding things, they were kind of floating in the air, and one of them accidentally dropped a little ball, and they went to the ground. But everything else was floating in the air, including them.
Okay.
There's no gravity.
So our favorite, which we have started experiencing more and more at an increased rate, is the Mandela Effect.
Has
Everybody here?
everybody seen it, experienced it, have any clue what it is? Okay, so supposedly in 2012, that we actually blew ourselves up, and they did a restart. Have everybody heard of CERN? CERN, HERP?
So they just activated again for the 10th year anniversary. They actually first started, they turned it on back on September 10th, 2008, and they were opening, supposedly their main reasoning was to create the God particle, which you can actually see that in Angels and Demons. They actually, the starting part of that movie is that they talk about the Hadron Collider. So they wanted to make a God particle because they wanted to prove out of nothing, God is so great, out of nothing He created the universe.
They also
So
wanted to create portals.
Yes, so one of the most famous, which was named after this gentleman, Nelson Mandela, a lot of people, we've met and encountered tons of people that remember him dying in the 80s in jail.
Anybody remember him dying in jail?
Yes,
Well, that didn't happen.
no.
The thing is now that he lived much longer, and then he passed away outside of jail. That's the Mandela Effect. And what they're saying caused that is when we blew ourselves up, they had to do a quick reset. So they kind of threw us back in
and
history again. And when they did that, it caused glitches in the matrix, little changes that some people who may be more aware or more awake remember. And there's quite a few of them we're going to be going through some.
Yeah, and the infamous date, December 21st, 2012, is the last year by the Mayan calendar, which had 13 400-year periods. That was the last period that they had, and goodbye. They couldn't see anything further. They were great mathematicians. They could forecast everything. But that was the year that they decided to use CERN again.
Now, they've been using CERN over quite a few decades. Has anybody ever experienced here, especially more recently, where you feel like you lost a day, or you feel like it's later, or your animals are perfect. they get fed at the same time every single night, and all of a sudden 3 hours early, like meow, 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 or woof, 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 to try to get their food because they're dying and they're starving. That's also caused by CERN, because what CERN does, it does restarts, and it pulls you back in
Now,
time, or pushes you forward.
Now, one of my fun ones that I found was Australia, the island of New Zealand. How many growing up here, if you've done your education here in the US, how many remember it being
Up
this?
Yeah? No? It's not.
It's not, they're saying that it's that one to the
It's
left.
down below Australia.
Mhm.
So what it is when they restart,
Oh, this is a
and
good
they
one.
start a new thing, a new timeline,
So this is.
that things tend
Yeah.
to change a little bit.
This is another one that has been gaining traction in the last 3 to 6 months. So it's the Berenstain Bears. That's how I
Everybody remember that?
Yes, but now it's the Berenstain
Berenstain.
Bears. And watching this video, there's nothing fake about it.
This is weird.
We got freaked out.
Watch it really close.
This doorway, what happens? And it, alright, it happens when it gets in the room. See it? And then back out here.
It gets clearer in a second.
Yeah.
But listen to his voice, how shook he is.
What happens?
Look at the name on the
Yeah.
board.
And then normal.
That's hard to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you seen the E on your screen?
He's
It
gonna,
sucks into
he's
the
gonna
room.
focus on it again.
But I sleep in here. And look at that.
There we go.
That shit is changing. Right
You see that?
here.
What changes?
That is cool.
Yeah.
That
And
is
you
cool.
can hear it in his voice. He's really traumatized by this.
So does that mean there's like a vortex there?
Yes.
Yeah, that book is still in the past in that room, but then when you pull it out, it brings it into the future.
And this is a little article on CERN.
What does that stand for, please?
CERN, it's cut off from, that collider is actually located in Lucerne, Switzerland. It's actually, it's an incredible facility. They're trying to do a lot of experimentation and open up a lot of portals using the dark matter anti-gravity. A lot of the anti-gravity, a lot of the frequency, a lot of that technology has been derived from that line of thinking as well. It's very hard to find places that give a lot of high frequency tools so that we can all ascend. So basically they're able to travel back and forth in time. We're seeing a lot of portals. There's videos of ships appearing through the smoke rings and disappearing as well.
Yeah.
It's really
NASA has never put a rocket out into space.
Okay.
There's a kind of an
Get it, keep it.
I know, but I'll just make one quick thing. Okay. Okay. The only way anybody travels is through portals, and you can go anywhere you want. You can go outside the atmosphere into other planets, and that's how they're doing it in special space programs and people who are in the know, the top 1%.
Okay, so short of having an anxiety attack, because I grew up watching a lot of these things, especially Star Wars. I'm a big fan. The one line that I always remember watching it, since I was very small, is Luke,
I am your father.
I am your father, right? And now it's no, I am your father.
Everybody remember Luke?
So the other one is the Monopoly Tycoon. The guy has a monocle. I grew up with a monocle, and now I see there's no monocle. They're claiming that's never happened.
Yeah.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Everybody, I remember growing up seeing that, and now it's magic mirror on the wall. Fruit of the Loom, the cornucopia. I grew up with the cornucopia. Now there's none. We Are the Champions. Anybody knows the song?
Yeah.
Do you know the end of the song? What's the last line of it?
Of the world.
No. No, never happened. Nope.
Now this is a one that we had to really uncover. It's one where Sinbad the comedian actually played in Shazam the genie. And they're claiming that no, it's a false memory. Now it's Shaquille O'Neal that played the genie in a basketball game.
Okay, I gotta ask something. Who is saying all this? I mean, is it a change in marketing or is it?
No, if you look these things up on the internet, they'll say that stuff, they're false memories and that they never happened.
And these are answers taken from real people that they do all these polls and everything.
Yeah,
And they try to get them in, get in all the answers. Jiffy versus Jif. I grew up,
and there's,
remember
yeah, there's
Jiffy, now it's Jif.
there's hundreds of these
Yeah,
things.
Sex in the City, I distinctly remember
Sex
freaking out over the end.
Yeah.
Mhm. How many remember Ed McMahon in the Publishers Clearinghouse?
Yeah.
Nope, he never had anything to do with it.
What's
So-
the purpose? Why they?
It has to do with CERN and how they keep on switching timelines and pulling us back and forth. It's because it's a matrix. And when you make a change, like if you change the software or you try to make an exact replica of something, it's never exactly the same. So people who are more awake, more ascended, more aware, they remember what it used to be. But now, no, that's never happened and that's this.
Yeah.
They're saying that Hello Clarice never happened.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, they're saying that it never happened.
Well,
And again, look them up, look them up.
So is that the movie, like that?
Yeah, that was in the movie.
I know, but I mean, they took it out of the movie.
Yeah, it's different in the movie.
no, they didn't take it out of the movie.
No,
They're saying it never
they're
happened.
saying it never happened. Same thing, there, if anybody remembers when they were young in school, that, does anybody ever remember a bombing over by the Statue of Liberty in New York? Were you ever taught that?
In 1908,
In 1900? Well, now, it has
it's in
happened.
Wikipedia.
And you can't go up into the top of the thing either.
But if you have a DVD of Silence of the Lambs, would it show the original?
They sometimes, some things will show different than others, but like if you see that book that you just saw on that video, it changed. So a lot of them have changed, but there are, every once in a while you can find out little different things somewhere, like in the back of a corner that's been sitting there for 30 years, or that, you know, it still shows you, oh, I'm not crazy. That is true. But the majority, 90 to 95% of it, never happened.
No, I distinctly remember freaking out,
Yep.
saying, you know, it's Sex in the City never,
Yeah.
was never a thing.
And we're right there with you. All this stuff, to us, has happened.
All right, so here's
These are
what
some of the glitches.
these are the fun ones.
Yes. Now, a couple of these may be made up, but the majority of them are probably not.
Yep.
That's one of them. Look at the sheep. That's not a picture, that's a video. The helicopter planes. Now that one, that can happen.
We encountered that twice, the frozen plane.
Okay, so I'm thinking of, and I found
This
broken
could have
nails.
been,
I'm thinking,
you know,
oh,
made up.
I must have broken my nails, you know. But look, none of my nails are broken. So I'm just like, okay. Oh, I flicked it. But anyway.
You see the car there floating up in the air? Look at the cars, did you see that on the bottom?
And the basketball
The
players,
dog's not moving,
Shaquille,
he's stuck.
frozen. And the
We actually
tree grew
saw that.
overnight in the car.
We saw that video where you see a lot of the stars are like,
Fucking glitch.
and they're not moving.
It's a simulation, you guys.
Yep, we encountered that twice, 2 different
Yeah.
days.
The plane's just sitting up there and not going anywhere.
The sheep's moving. The sheep's not moving.
It's crazy stuff, but the matrix is breaking down.
I watched this bird for 20 minutes and it stayed in the same place.
And there's no wind,
There was
but the
no
trees
wind.
aren't blowing.
If you look on top of the house, the
He's
windmill
fluttering
does
his
not
wings,
move.
see?
Yeah, it started fluttering a
Glitch in
little
the
bit,
simulation.
but they stuck again. Now the next one's even better, it's even a little weirder. Is that the second one? This one.
Oh, this is
Watch the
creepy.
people. Well, that's cars. One side's going, the other side ain't going anywhere. There's nothing stopping it. But,
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
but look at all the people. Nobody's moving. Nobody. stuck.
Wait, this person's driving a car and now.
Yes.
Yeah, she's
But
driving
on
past
the
them,
other side,
recording it.
there's more too.
Yeah, but if you look really close,
There's
nobody's
more.
moving an arm, leg, head, nothing. There we go, on this other. But there's a lot of stuff out there like that. And, you know, we brought more of the tamer ones. There's other really creepy ones out there. But it definitely, is that the end of our slides? Yeah, that's it? Oh. Okay, anybody have any questions? Or
Yes,
have
so
you ever
this-
had a Mandela effect?
Yeah, I just have a question. So this is currently happening, the matrix is breaking
Yes.
down. We're all like in
Yes.
this
Yes.
breakdown of things.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And
are we gonna wake up and be somebody else,
Well,
or?
astrologically, we're going out of the age of Pisces and we're moving into the age of Aquarius.
Right.
So all the old systems break down and we're moving into this supposed golden age. Now there's so many theories out there of where we're going, what we're doing. You know, the hope is that we're not gonna get, you know, are you familiar with resets? Resets are like the Great Flood. They're all over the Bible. The Great Flood, it was a reset when Atlantis got blown up. Okay, and here's something that I'm sure majority of you may not know, and again, research it, look it up, but don't look in the same places because you're not going to find it. Is that we actually reset again between around 1720 to 1770, somewhere in that ballpark. We blew ourselves up, or somebody blew us up. There was a big mud flood. Anybody familiar with the Tartarians? Okay, Tartarian civilization, and then they dug them all out, and all these buildings have been dug out. And we have all these fantastic structures and buildings. Some of them are churches now, some of them are palaces and things like that. But they've, over the last 100 years, they've been slowly just destroying them because they don't want us to know our civilization. And the Tartarians were actually giants. They were probably about, what, 8 to 10 feet?
Taller.
8 to 10, some taller. And they actually, one reset, there were giants, which was the Nephilim. And actually, Adam and Eve were giants. Because they said the Nephilim came down and they had, you know, they were with the women.
Yeah,
Okay?
if you-
So you got Nephilim that are 40 feet high, and then you got people that are 6 feet high. It's impossible.
Now, for the rocks and figures and faces that have been found all over the world, there's a term that's been coined, which is mud fossil history.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look that up, you're gonna get a whole bunch
Yeah.
of pictures
Look
on
at-
Facebook.
yeah,
There's a
there's-
few groups.
Yeah, like
too.
you see like a face in a mountain. That's not a face in a mountain, that's a person.
And then the
That's a giant.
mountains that are lying down in Peru, there's Machu Picchu, which everybody has heard.
And she lived in Peru.
Yeah, I lived in Peru, so it's literally translated into the old man. So when you see the city, but when you turn it at a certain angle, you see an old man sleeping. And it's the same thing with all the infamous volcanoes, all the mountain ranges.
Yeah, the mountain ranges like, has anybody ever been to Sedona and seen the red rocks and things like that? They look like big plateaus. Those are trees.
That were
They've
cut
actually
down.
done sonar on the bottom, and there's root systems underneath them. They're gigantic trees because it was gigantic people. And every time the earth got reset, people got smaller. Because if you look at the Tartarian civilization and the buildings and things, the doors are like up here, you know, 10 feet high. The handles are up here. They find, you know, knives and all this stuff that people use. They have a violin that they found that was like 10 feet high.
Now,
And they make it like it's, you know, oh, well, that was just, you know, something they did.
Yeah, it's been well documented in American history during the time of Lincoln and before he actually became president. There were a lot of finds of giant caverns with all the giants that were found. They excavated the Native Americans around the sites where they settled, around the mountain sites. They would actually kill off the giants that were man-eating giants.
Mhm.
There were redheads.
Mhm.
There was this one, I don't remember his name, but it was a Native American chief that actually killed the giant, scalped him, and created a headdress Paris with the red hair.
And they still have a lot of pictures from like the, 1800s, late 1800s and early 1900s where it was very common. People would walk side by side and one's, 8 to 10 feet tall. But again, I think through certain things that they're doing with our food, vaccines, things like that, that they don't want that. Because they don't want to know who we are, because we can't even create or get close to what those Tartarian buildings are and how they're made.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. Anybody?
Yes.
Any questions, any curiosities? Nothing sounds crazy. Yes.
I think Gaia has some good shows about exactly what you're talking about.
Excellent shows, and they actually do give a lot of the 3rd grade edition, so everybody understands easily. And it's a lot of great information that you can find on Gaia, so thank you for that.
Yes.
I did come in late, you may have covered it. When you say the matrix is falling apart, can you say, what do you mean? Those are evidences, but what do you mean? What's the implications for us, and how do we use it for our own conscious expansion?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, when I mentioned the matrix is falling apart, all the illusions are falling apart. And also, the physical things, and we're all waking up. We're supposed to be ascending, but unfortunately, the people that were populating this earth early on, didn't tell us the rules. So we were not able to play the game, because supposedly we've all come down to this planet and volunteered to come down to this planet to help elevate the whole universe by us learning. And everything we learn, they keep track of. Every life we've gone through, they keep track of, and it builds on the universe. Okay? But then at some point, they did a trap, what they call a soul trap. And you go up and you think you're going to heaven, and nope, you come back down, and here you go again. And they have so many rules that we don't know the rules, so we can't ascend. So now, supposedly what's happening is there's a couple different theories, okay? So I heard this back in my 20s, that supposedly extraterrestrials are now getting involved. They couldn't before because it was free will, but now they are because it's not fair, and they don't want to reset the planet again because they don't want to start all over again, because we're meant to ascend to 5D. Everybody familiar with 5D? Okay. So we're still sitting in 3D. Some people are bouncing in 4D. Some people are bouncing in 5D. There's lots of ascension symptoms. Again, we can go through that. But we're supposed to be, supposedly, there's supposed to be some kind of trumpet sound. A lot of this goes to the Bible and the Bible codes. And there's a lot of truth in the Bible, but they've held back a lot of stuff. There's chapters been taken out. There's chapters been put in. It's not exactly what they say. Again, research. But we're supposed to go up and we're supposed to be, let's see, there's supposed to be trumpets going off and CERN's going to be going at the same time. We're supposed to try to destroy our Earth, the bad guys, and the good guys are intervening, and supposedly they're going to scoop us up, everybody that's good, take us up to ships. We turn invisible when this frequency comes on. We turn invisible, we go up to the ships, they fix us in like a med pod, and then we get zipped off in 3 days to another planet in Sirius to live out our lives. Whether we forget or not, who knows? That's one theory, okay? Another theory is that, obviously there's a spiritual war going on right now, whether you know it or not. It's going on under your feet, it's going on in the air, it's going on in space. Bless you. And
Just confirmation.
yes, yes. All these earthquakes that you're feeling, some of them are weather weapons. They can control the weather. They're not going to tell you, but they can control the weather. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But also the earthquakes, and they're bombing a lot of the underground things that are going on. There's tunnels that reach underground all over the world.
There's also sound frequency technology. We're all guinea pigs at this point. That's why we're off on some days you feel like you wake up and you're totally off, and other days you feel like you're right where you're supposed to be. So the best way to guard against that, have a lot of dark colored stones that can prevent those bad frequencies, the lower negative frequencies, which are associated with demons.
Right, and they feed off our fear and negativity. Another thing is, everybody hear the George Guidestones just got blown up?
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't know whether they are blown up, but according, by which side. But according to what they say, the higher-ups that are ruling the world right now, or we're hoping they're not, that they've been taken down, but, that basically, we're basically like cattle. You know, they want, according to Georgia Guidestones, that was what they were going for, that they lower the planet down to 500 million people. And we're basically, you know, we're basically food and energy for them. And then the changing of the atmosphere is they're terraforming the planet. Okay, that's the bad thing.
It's a positive thing that the matrix is dissolving, right?
Yes, it's a positive thing that the matrix is, because what that's doing is that's waking people up. And they're starting to see. They're starting to see the truth. And that's the whole thing, for us all to see the truth. Raise the frequency on the planet high enough to whereas they can't stand it and they'll dissolve, go away. A lot of them have been shipped off planet, a lot of them have been killed. There's over 500 shapeshifters on the planet. You ever see some of the pictures on the TV and people are talking and all of a sudden you see, you know, their eyes will change real quick?
Yeah, a couple of movies that's really good. One talks a little bit about terraforming, and the other one how subliminal signals. The first one is The Arrival with Charlie Sheen. Talks about he's a regular guy, but he goes into going up against evil aliens that are terraforming the planet to fit so they can come and live here for free. And the other one,
changing the atmosphere on our planet so that they can survive up on top instead of living underground.
and the other,
That's why they're hybriding them.
and the other movie, one of my favorites, and it's become her favorite too, is They Live by John
Oh my
Carpenter.
gosh, yeah.
They live.
They live. Yeah, how they control us and all the subliminal stuff and the MK Ultra and they're brainwashing us through
And the new
mainstream
technology.
media.
And who's in that?
Roddy Piper,
Mhm.
ex wrestler, Roddy Piper.
In 2014, they did a regulation that allows the mainstream media to lie to us. Obama did that. And so, you know, they can say whatever they want. They're not going to get in trouble. But they want us to believe their agenda.
He also signed over the rights to the internet to the UN too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of change
Yes.
that he made happen.
So you say we're going in the age of Aquarius. What direction for the planet and humanity will that, I mean?
Okay, so the age of Aquarius is supposed to be more of a golden age, more of an enlightened age, and basically we're supposed to move up to 5D. Now that's the good scenario. The good scenario is the bad guys are losing, the good guys are winning. They're going to bring in, I know I'm speaking very fast, but we're running out of time. So they're going to bring us into like Nasera Jacera, and I know I'm throwing out all sorts of things you may not know what I'm talking about, but go research. Don't trust anybody, question everything. But Nasera Jacera, which is supposed to be also something really good coming in that's going to help all the starving people, all the, you know, the different countries. We're supposed to go to a gold-backed currency. Don't fall for the digital currency. That is a bad one. That's bad because they have total control over everything you do. It'll go to just like the communist government in China, where they watch you. You notice all the cameras coming up? You notice all the 5G coming up? You know, look around. You see all these changes coming in. That's what they want for us.
And you see with the pandemic, all the police state activities that have been occurring.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're letting them trash our cities. They're letting all the, you know, I have no problem with migrants and people coming into Texas, and we're out of time. Oh, okay. Well,
We love you all.
stopping by. Try to get as much as we could out.
And if you have any questions, stop by our booth.
Huh? No, we are sisters from Texas. I know, yeah. But say the thing,